Okay, well, thanks for joining us. So if I look over here, I've got two screens going on. So it's not I'm like disinterested and looking away. I'm actually looking at your faces over here. So when I look away and I'm like disinterested, I'm actually trying to engage. Um, so we're here to look at percentage-based gradebooks in Excel. Um, so Damien's going to throw a link there in the chat, and you're going to be able to use that to be able to access the slides. And in the slides here, you're going to find a few links. He's going to be throwing those in along the way as well. And if you've got any questions, he's always there in the chat to help you out, or you can just stick your hand up and we'll take the time to stop and answer any questions that you've got. So just a reminder, I know Damien already did this, so this workshop is going to be recorded. My name's Chris Webb. I'm based in Montreal. I'm actually just off the island of Montreal in Quebec. And I'm actually on some unceded territory. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. Damien, just want to take a second and introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Damien. I am over in Ontario, in Mississauga, neighboring basically Toronto, and that is on Treaty 13A. So I'm also just as excited to be here. Chris, I think we've already done a couple times before, but we always have a great time, and I'm super excited to be with all of you. As Chris mentioned, if you do have any questions whatsoever, let me know in the chat. I will be posting little links and ways that we can stay up to date and help you out a little bit. So the chat is where you can connect with me.
Awesome. So before we start, I just want to acknowledge that I'm located on the unceded indigenous lands of the Ganagahage Nation, and it's recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters on which we gather today. If you want to find out more about the lands that you're located on, the native-land.ca website has loads of awesome information about that. And it's important to acknowledge that unceded lands were taken without permission and have never officially been returned. So I said a few minutes ago about being located on unceded lands. So they were taken and have never been given back to those indigenous people. So we're here today with the Cobblestone Collective. If you want to find more out about Cobblestone, you can visit the website. I'm assuming you've already visited that to sign up for today's workshop. And today, this is a Microsoft workshop, and we just want to thank Microsoft for making this workshop possible. And Cobblestone, we're a Microsoft in Education Global Training Partner. So today's plan is to have a look at the Microsoft Education Center. We're going to talk about that for a few seconds. You can get some credits there. We're going to set up our Excel sheet. We're going to create some formulas. We're going to add some assignments. We're going to calculate some averages, analyze some data, and identify at-risk students, all in less than 60 minutes. So we got a little bit of a whistle-stop tour around Excel here. We're making the assumption that you are already a basic Excel user. So you know your way around a spreadsheet, whether that be, you've used some form of spreadsheet in your life before. It doesn't have to be Excel. Like, it could have been a Google sheet. It could have been like Apple numbers. But we're focusing today here on Microsoft Excel. Okay, so the Microsoft Education Center allows you to access a load of resources and a variety of free courses. You can gain some badges, and by using this code that I think you're going to find in the chat, you can get like credit. So this course that you're doing today will count as credit towards getting your MIE badge. To say that you're like a certified Microsoft know-it-all. So use that code, sign up, get your credits. The more of these courses you do, the more credits you get, and the more acknowledgement. I'm not sure that's the right word, but it is 7:30 at night. The more acknowledgement that you will get for doing these workshops. Okay, so let's dive into this. So to start with, you are all going to want to get a copy of this template. So Damien's going to throw the link to this template in the chat. Now, Microsoft don't make this very easy on us, so we're going to have to just follow a couple of little steps to be able to get this into your OneDrive. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click on that link. You're going to then want to download that file, and then you're going to want to go into your OneDrive, and then you're going to want to upload that file from your computer into your OneDrive so you have a copy of that file. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat that again just in case. So you're going to go ahead, you're going to click on that link, you're going to download the file, you're going to save it on your computer, you're then going to go into your OneDrive, and then you're going to upload it into your OneDrive and open it from there. Or if you have Excel on your desktop, you can just open it in Excel on your desktop and go ahead and use it there. If you need any help, let us know. We'll take a little pause here to help you out. We know that this is a little bit of a tricky step.
I have posted kind of also instructions in the chat if you'd like to follow that along. So another alternative to that is if you open up that that template that we gave out, head over to the file in the top left corner, download to your computer. That should prompt and open up that template on your computer. Some people might get a little banner that says enable editing. Usually you have to click that in order to then enable saving. It's just kind of the way it works. And then you go back into file and upload to OneDrive as well. So very similar to what Chris was saying, a little bit of a different approach, but I did put a written instruction piece as well to hopefully help guide you.
Perfect. Okay, a little thumbs up. Are we all done? Do we all have a copy of that Excel file? Because we're going to be playing along in that. You're going to be, no. Do you need some help there, Christine? We can help you out if you need some help. Do you want me to show you on my screen what you need to do? Would that be helpful? Okay, perfect. So, Vitalem, you're good. Sean, are you good too? Do you have a copy of that? Awesome. Christine, do you want me to show you how to do it on my screen? Would that be useful? Okay. Oh, you can't see me. Okay.
Couldn't find you anymore. I couldn't find you.
Okay.
It opened another page and I couldn't find you anymore.
No problem. So did you manage to get it into your OneDrive and get it open?
My computer is extra slow. It's the school computer.
Okay.
So taking a lot of time to download and to save.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, how about we do an instruction just for anyone who might watch the recording later on?
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to go into here. So this is our sheet. So once you open it up, this is what you're going to see. So we're going to go to File, and we're going to go to Save As. If you're not logged in, you might already see a little download button over here. So we're going to go Save As. We're going to download a copy here. So now I've got a copy down here in my browser. And then I'm going to go into my Office account over here. I'm going to sign in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this upload button right here. I'm going to choose this file from here. I'm going to click open. And now it's going to upload this, hopefully, into OneDrive. And now this is my copy, and you can see that it's got a little number 1 at the end to show that this is a new copy. Okay? Awesome. So let's, now that we kind of have figured out how to get a template open there, so what I'm going to flick backwards and forwards between these two tabs a little bit. So let's first of all talk about formatting numbers, because I think something that's really important for us to understand is that because we're going to be working with a percentage-based gradebook, that we can have different types of numbers in our spreadsheet. And we're actually going to be dealing with percentages and numbers. So let's just take a minute to realize where this is. So in Excel, up here, when we click on a cell, we have this drop-down box. And generally it says general, but under here, there's a load of number types that we can choose from. So the ones that you probably are going to use the most are either general, number, a date or a time, or a percentage. There are some others here that you can play around with, but we're not going to look at those today. So what we're going to need to do in our template, first of all, is we are going to change our percentage column to be a percentage value. So down here, you want to be on the basic sheet tab. So at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see there's 4 tabs. There's a basic sheet. There's a fun one for later, which is one we made earlier. So you can take it away. It's all working. Even if you can't follow along, you could use that one. So we're going to start on the green tab, the basic sheet. And what we're going to do is we're going to highlight this column. This is going to be where our percentage ends up over here. And we're going to change this from general, and we're going to change this into a percentage. So now our numbers in here, when I type a number into here, you can see that it automatically becomes a percent. So that's now a percent. If I type a mark into the previous box, a 20, well, that is just going to be a regular number because we've got that set to a general data type. So we've got general, and then we've got a percent. So I'm going to give you a second just to highlight that column there, like this. We're going to go up here. We're going to go to the drop-down menu, and then we're going to choose percent from that drop-down box. And what that's going to do, that's telling Excel that we want the data in that column there to be formatted as a percentage. So then when we come to use this as a gradebook, what we're going to do is we're going to start entering students' last names and first names. You can pull that out of your student information system. And then we're going to have columns across here for our assignments. We're going to enter our student's mark into this column, and we're going to get our spreadsheet to automatically calculate our percentage for us. And then as we go along, we're going to end up with an overall average. We're going to do some cool stuff as we get further along. Okay, so does everybody have their things set up as a percentage? Just again, maybe another quick thumbs up if you're ready to move on.
Awesome. I saw Sean give the heads up, Christine, I believe, as well. Oh, yeah, using the emojis. I love it. I'm not seeing anything in the chat, Chris.
But Vitalam, are you talking to us? Because we can't hear you. I think you're muted. It's great. It's like a silent conversation.
Yes.
You're muted again.
I think you double click the mute, so you unmuted and then muted again.
There we go. Okay.
So under the general tab, right? If I click on the percentage, that's basically what you're asking us to do now.
Yeah. So we've highlighted the column here. We've gone up here, and we've changed this to percent.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. So we're going to move on to the next step. So now we've set this up as a percentage, and you have these slides to take away, right? All of this is going to be in the slides. We're gonna flick back and forth. Okay. So I already explained a little bit about how the template works here. So we're going to add a student's names. We're going to add some information in as we go along. So next, we're going to set up some formulas. So our first formula that we're going to want to use is going to turn our mark into a percentage. Now, Excel has this formula toolbar. So across the top here, we have these different options here, and one of them is for formulas. And that opens what Microsoft call a ribbon, and this is the formulas ribbon. Now, in here are all sorts of formulas. So if you're ever looking for a formula, or you're like, oh, I wonder if there's a formula for this, you can go find all sorts of formulas, and they're in these drop-down menus. So you can go have a look in here. There's like sum ones, there's math ones, all sorts of things. So if you're ever looking for a formula, the formula bar is a great place to find it. Now, for today, we're actually going to type our own formula. Now, before we can get this to actually calculate a mark for us, we're going to need to decide on a total number of marks for our assignment. So what I've done up here is I've written total points. And you're going to replace total points with the number of marks that you want this assignment to be out of. I'm going to change mine to be out of 25 marks. So I've given a test, and this test is out of 25. So this is where our total mark is going to go up here. So we're going to change this value up here to 25. Okay. So once we've changed that mark to 25, what we're now going to do is we're going to calculate our percentage. Now, to calculate that, we're going to use the formula that you see on your screen. And what this is saying is that we want to take the value that's in cell C4. So if you've ever played that game, Battleships, you know, you have your little things and you have to like sink the other person's boat. Fun game. So it's a little bit like Battleships. So we're going to look at C4. And then what we're going to do is we're going to divide that by the value that's in C2. Now, because we set the data type in our column D to a percentage, Excel is going to automatically convert that into a percentage for us. Now, you'll notice that in my formula on the screen here, there's a $sign. And what that $sign does is when we take our formula and we copy that formula down, is it stops that formula from incrementing. So it's not going to keep going up by 1 every time we drag it down. Otherwise, we'd be dividing by like C3 and then C4 and then C5, and that would be a disaster. And then you end up with a mess. And at some point, you're going to forget to do this. I do it all the time. Just remember that little $sign there will prevent that from happening. And you can put it in front of the letters, and you can put it in front of the numbers. So today, we're just going to put this in exactly as you see it here. So equals C4 divided by C$2. You must put in the equal sign. So I'm going to go into here. I'm going to do equals C4. You can also click in the cells if you want to, divided by C$2. So you can see
what the $sign means.
Yeah, well, let me show you what happens. So by putting if I don't put this $sign in, so I'm not going to put the $sign in. I'm going to put some numbers in here. Let's put 25, 35. Oh, they can't get 35. It was out of 25. 18. 16.
Excuse me. Is that possible to zoom your computer, because we see just a little? It's too small to see. Just zoom your computer, your screen, to enlarge. Yes, good.
Okay, great. Okay, so if I drag this down, so you see this little thing in the corner here, it's called a handle, this little square. If I drag this down like this, well, you'll notice, like you see I got this error message. I've got value. If I hover over that, like it says that there's an error. A value used in the formula is of the wrong type. It's like, what, why? But it's because what's happened is, if you look up here, it says equals C5 divided by C3. And then if we go down to the next one, I've got equals C6 divided by C4. That's not what I want. I want this mark every single time to be divided by the value in C2. So by putting a $sign in here, this tells Excel, don't change that number 2. I don't want you to increase it by 1 every single time. So I'm going to take this, and now when I drag it down, now it's always going to be divided by C2. It's C2 in this one, and C2 in this one, and C2 in this one. So that $sign stops that value from changing every single time when I drag it down. Does that make sense? Are we good?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so you should now have something which has a mark, and you have a percentage in the following column. Okay. And you can play around with these, you can change these, and you'll see that they update live, right? Because this is a formula, so this is automatically calculating. Okay. So now what I want you to do is I want you to drag that formula all the way down using the handle. So I just showed you the little handle in the corner here. So we're going to take this, we're going to use the little handle in the corner, and we're going to drag it down to fill our entire column. So let me see. Is 125 good? I don't know who said that it was too small. Is 125 big enough? Just means that I can see my whole screen. Okay. So now we should have something. So now we should have something which looks like this. Awesome. Okay, so we're looking for this little green square here right in the corner. You'll notice that we have this like thick plus sign. And when we go to that little handle, it actually changes to a thin plus sign. So you know you're on the right spot. So, and then you can drag it down. So you click and drag that when your little cursor changes. Perfect. Okay, if you ever are working with lots of formulas, if you double click on that little thing, it will fill all the way down to match the column on the left-hand side. In this case, it wouldn't have helped you out. We don't have any data on the left, so it wouldn't have done anything. But if you're working with big data sets, that's a really handy little time-saving tip. Okay, so put some marks in the column. You probably already have had a chance to do that, and have a look at how those marks get changed into percentages. As I said at the beginning, we're gonna take this relatively slow to start with, and then we'll pick up the pace a little bit once we get a little bit more comfortable with what's going on. So now you should have a spreadsheet. You should have something with a mark in it. You've entered your values that your students got, and now you've got it converting that mark into a percentage. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add another assignment, because you're never going to want a gradebook where you only have one assignment, because that would be pretty useless, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to highlight our two columns. Now you'll see my mouse is up here. It's turned into a finger. I'm on the C. It's turned green. I'm going to click here. I'm still holding down on my mouse, and I'm going to drag across. So I've now highlighted my two columns for C and for D. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to do that a couple more times. So now I have this sheet, and now I've got a load of assignments. I'm going to go through. I'm just going to delete these. I probably should. You want to save yourself some time in a second, you should probably delete those before you copy and paste. So now we have this assignment across here, and we've now got all these standalone assignments. So we've set up one assignment, right? And now we've just duplicated that assignment throughout our sheet. So now you're good to go. We've got 6 assignments set up in there. You could go ahead, you could enter all your grades in there. Yep, Christine, go ahead.
How did you manage to have it all 0? I dragged it, I copied it, but I copied the same assignment. The numbers were there. I mean, the marks.
Yeah, so I just deleted my numbers.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Look, I got rid of the numbers.
Okay, got it.
I should have said that before you copied it. I did think it as I was doing it. I was like, oh, well. So what I do generally is like, I'll run out of space in mine that I use in class. And then I'll take this last column and I'll copy that column and I'll paste it in. And then I'll just delete the values from that column. Okay, so we should have some assignments in here now. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go in. I'm going to rename this. So maybe this was like quiz 1, test 1. This could have been, I think we only were doing 3 in the slides that we'd got there, but you know, you could have assignment 2. Oh dear. Okay, This is a good learning point. You see I've got this hash value on my screen here? It's because I put a value that's not a number. That essentially means I can't divide by that because it's not a number. If you change it back to a number, you fix the value thing. And then like you can change these across here. Okay. So you'll notice that all of these are standalone. And what Excel has done is as we've copied these columns, it's just updated the formulas for us. So this is really super handy because we can now use these formulas in each column and they're going to update. So this one's for column E, this one's for column G, this one's for column I, this one's for column K, and this one's for column M. So no, I could keep copying and pasting all day long, and it's going to automatically update because of the way we set up this formula, right? We set it up with this little dollar sign. We set it up. We'd already dragged it down. So the setup of this is what's going to save you lots of time moving forwards. And once you've set up one and you've got a blank template, you can just duplicate that one template across all your classes. So you've made one gradebook, and then you can just use this across all of your classes. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to calculate the average of our assignments. So to be able to do that, we're going to need some data. I'm actually, just in the interest of time, I'm going to delete these 3 columns that I've got going on here because there's just too much information. So I'm going to add some more information here. I'm just going to make up these numbers. You probably just want a few columns to work with. And we're going to have something like this. So now I'm just going to add a little title here that says average. This is going to be a percentage. I'm going to put a little % sign there. And what sort of data type do you think I'm going to want in this column here? What sort of data type do we think we're going to want here? Are we going to want to have a general data type, or are we going to want to have a percentage?
You're going to need numbers there.
We're going to need numbers. Now, are we going to have just regular numbers, or are we going to have a percentage as our average?
Well, you're thinking of 100. Do you whatever grade over 100 out of 100? That's what you would.
Yeah,
for?
exactly. So because of that, we're going to change this. We're going to change this data type 2 into a percentage, because we're going to be dealing with an average of our percentages and not an average of our actual raw marks. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to take a raw average. So I'm going to type into this box equals average. And now I'm going to click, because this is the easiest way to do this. So the first mark I'm going to use in my average is this one right here. And then I'm going to put a comma. And then I'm going to click on my next mark. And I'm going to put a comma. And then I'm going to click on my next mark. And if you're really neat and tidy, you'll close the bracket. If you're not, you can just hit enter and it will do it for you. So this is my formula. So if my computer wants to play ball, which apparently it doesn't, I would zoom. Zoom in for you. Apparently it doesn't want to do that. And you'll see I have an average here. Now, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to come back to this. So you can see here that I've already got this for you. So equals average, D4, F4, and H4. And when you hit enter, it's going to calculate the average of those 3 columns. We're using this to find an average of those 3 individual columns, or those 3 individual cells. You can find the average of a range. So you can find the average of an entire column going down, and you can use a colon to find a range. Saves, you don't have to go click, 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 click. Okay. How are we doing with pace here? Is this a good pace for everybody? A little slow, a little fast?
Question?
Yep.
If you were to highlight from your worksheet, from your spreadsheet, if you were to highlight across and down, would you get the average for all the names that way?
So you like a class average, you mean?
Yeah.
So
Well,
what I could do for
on an average of the 3 test scores for everybody.
So I could do equals average down the bottom here. And then I could just highlight like this.
Yeah.
And this is just going to give me an average of the entire class.
Right.
Or if I only wanted those 3 students or 4 students, I would just go to D7 and, oh, I deleted the D, D7. And that will tell me that the average for those 3 students or those 4 students is 72%. So this could be, this could be a class average for the assignment. So you'll notice that what it did in the formula is it used a colon instead of over here. It's the danger of clicking in a formula and then clicking somewhere else. Instead of over here where we've got commas, right? So our commas are standalone values. And over here, you can see our colon in here. Our colon gives us a range of values. The reason I can't drag across like this is because my raw scores are in here.
Yeah.
So it would find an average of these numbers and the percentage numbers, and then the percentage, the average is all messed up. It's not a real value. So that's why we went through and we chose the individual values that we wanted to include.
Okay.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to come over here, and you know before I said if I double click, it will copy down for me. So I'm going to double click now, and it's going to copy that all the way down. Because now I have values on the left-hand side here. And if you want to, you can make it look pretty. You can change the formatting. It's like the borders over here.
And just to confirm, Chris, when you were double-clicking, it had to become that cross?
Yep. So you have to wait for it to become that little thin cross that I've got there. Not the fat one, the thin one.
Christine, I see you have a hand. Your hand is up. Do you have a question? You're on mute.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. I have a question for you. I'm French teacher, and in French we have 3 competencies to evaluate for each term. So competency 1 for examples reading, competency 2 is writing, and number 3 it's the oral presentation.
Yep.
So for each competency, the 2 first competency, we have 3 evaluation. And those evaluation, the first one count for 25, and 50% of the term for that competency. And the reading competency count for 30% of the term, and the writing count for 30% again, and the other one, the last one, count for 40%.
Yep.
So how can we manage the calculation, the average? How can we manage those 3 things, those 3 competency, and those 3 evaluation per competency with a different value?
Yeah. So when you enter
really
those into the right, so when you enter those, so there's a few things going on here. So first of all, when you enter those into the computer system, so you're, I think you said you were English Montreal, right? So when you enter those into GPI, you're going to go in and you're going to see your 3 competency columns. So you're actually going to want a calculated average for each competency. So what I do, I'm a high school math teacher. So I have a column here for competency 1 and competency 2. And eventually, and we're going to move on to this in a minute, we'd have another column for you for competency 3. And you would calculate these separate, you would calculate your average for each assignment. So instead of this being an average here, this would be an average for competency 1. And then you'd have another column, which is an average for competency 2. So you've selected your competency 2 assignments to make up that average. And then you've selected your competency 3 assignments to make up your competency 3 column. It really depends on you too. You could have this setup, so you've got these assignments and then an average, and then you could have another like 4 assignments and then another average, and then another 4 assignments and then another average. It really depends on how you want this to work. You can copy and paste these columns and put them anywhere you want.
Okay, so it would work like what you have already now, assignment, quiz, and tests, and average. That could be all in competency 1.
Sure.
And then you continue next to it with your competency 2. And
so you could add it. You could add another column up the top here.
Okay.
You could merge it all together.
Yeah.
Competency 1, right? Like there you go, competency 1, right? And now you go across here, you merge them all together, competency 2, and then you've got another little section. It really depends on what works for you. The idea of tonight is that we're going to build this up into a set of skills, and you're able to take this away, and you're able to kind of customize it and use it for what works for you. And you can copy and paste those columns. You can put them wherever you want. But there is something to undo Excel, but but what we're going to look at is how you can also have a final column down here, which will give you an actual term mark. Now, I know that you don't need to do that because the computer, when we click save and submit, will actually go ahead and calculate those. But we want to know what that mark's going to be before we enter into the computer, right?
I heard that we're not going to have GPI anymore. It's going to be a mosaic or something.
I've heard all sorts of rumors. We were told that GPI is going to be around for a while. So, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we now are going to talk about weighting the average. So this is kind of what you were just asking me about. So how do we go about taking a set of assignments and weighting those assignments in a way that allows us to count things for more than something else? So often we want to do this for different types of assignments. So we might want to have a test that's worth more than a quiz, which is worth more than an assignment. Or you might have competencies, which are weighted at different values. Damien, do you have competencies in Ontario? I think they're called something else, right?
Depends where you look, but yeah, we do.
And do you report those separately? You guys just type in the final mark, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what we're going to look at here is how we're going to weight it across different assignments. But you can use exactly the same concept to weight across competencies as well. And the trick here is understanding that a percentage is made up of a total of 100. So we're going to look at how we can take this 100 and we can break this down into pieces. So if we want a test to be worth 50%, then we need the other 50% to come from somewhere else. It always has to add up to 100%, right? Now, because percentages are on a scale of 0 to 1, right? Because a percentage is a value from 0 to 1. It's not out of 100. We need to turn these values into a decimal for our computer to be able to understand it. So here you can see that 50% converts into a value of 0.5, and a quiz of 30% turns into 0.3. So essentially, we're taking these values and we're just dividing them by 100, right? So it's like if you go into the grocery store and you want to add on, there's a discount and you want to find out how much you would save if it got 10% off, you could multiply it by 0.9 instead of doing all that crazy complicated math with a calculator, right? Okay, so don't be afraid. That's all I have to say, okay? Don't be afraid. So what you'll see is what I've done is I've taken 3 average formulas. So I've got my first one here that's tests. And at the end, I've multiplied it by 0.5. And then I've added it to another average formula, which I multiplied by 0.3. And then I've added it to another average formula, which I've multiplied by 0.2. Now let's go back to your competency question. Let's imagine for a minute this wasn't test, quizzes, and assignments, but this was competency 1, competency 2, and competency 3. I could simply take my competency 1 mark, multiply it by the percentage, take my competency 2 mark, multiply it by the percentage, take my competency 3 mark, multiply it by the percentage, add them all together, and it would give me my overall term mark. So there's a few ways that you can use this, but we're going to do this as an average of our different assignments. So what I've done is I've created down here an assignments tab. So you've got this other one to play with. You've got that one. But when we go to assignments here, you'll see that there's an assignments tab that already has some marks in it. It has more assignments set up for you. Okay. And I've already created an average column. So you'll see that it's already calculating in percentages. That's all set up. And what we're going to do is we're going to click over here, and we're going to start calculating our average. So our first one is going to be our average for our tests. Now we said that we were going to count our tests. That's not a test. We were going to count our tests for 50%. Okay, so we're going to take that and we're going to multiply that by 0.5. And now we're going to add to that the average of our quizzes. And Damien, this is where I put you on the spot. What was my percentage for my quizzes?
I think it was 0.3.
Okay, well, we're counting those for 30%, so we're going to multiply those by 0.3. And then
I think your purple L5 should move up one, I think.
Oh yeah, I'm going to go change that. There we go. We'll just change that to L4. Thanks. Nice spot. Thanks for having my back.
Of course.
Okay. And then we're going to go through here and we're going to change our next assignment, right? So we're going to change this, and that was going to be multiplied by 0.2. So it looks kind of crazy, but what you just want to make sure is that your assignments are kind of like you've picked the right things. You want to go through it slowly, right? Don't want to rush through it. I've seen people who click through it. It's like that's just a recipe for disaster. Go through it slowly, approach it methodically, think about what those things are, and then when you're done, we hit enter, and we're going to get an average. Okay, so I'm going to put the formula back up on my screen here, so you have it to refer to. And I'll give you a couple of minutes just to work through that one. You probably need a little bit longer to get going. And don't forget, we're here if you need any help.
Yeah, definitely. If you wanted to continue getting off mute, let us know. It's been actually a great group with that. Pretty vocal. But you can always send a message to me as well, and I'll just do a little, Alfred in the background to Chris's Babin. I did enjoy learning some new things. I never knew the $ halted that the drop down, like using the plus sign. I never knew that. My workaround to that was I would always just do the same formula manually 2 or 3 times, which kind of forced Excel to realize, okay, this is a pattern.
So you can put the $ in front of the letter or the number or both, so you can control what's being frozen as you drag it across. Saves so much time. So much time.
If I may ask a question.
Of course.
You have the assignments 1, 2, 3, 4, and under that you have a number. Is that the number of points or the number of percentage or the weight?
That's what it was scored. That was what it was marked out of. So say you gave
the number of points.
Yeah, the number of points. Okay. So like you give a test and it's out of 72 marks, and then they score 52. That's what we're dividing it against, right? Like if you give them the thing, they're going to get out of the calculator. They're going to do 42 divided by 72, right? That's what we're doing here.
Okay.
Christine, your hand's raised.
Yeah. I need to put capitals, If I put
no.
No. Okay.
Is it giving you an error message?
Yeah, hold on. I'll try again. I press enter once I put all the formula.
Yep.
Oh, I think I forgot to put the
bracket. It's very. Oh, so Christine, are you using Excel in French?
No, on my
Okay.
computer it's in English, but
Okay, perfect.
I'm looking for my words. Okay,
So it
not
is important
trying
to
to
point
type a
out.
formula. There's a problem with this formula. When the first character is an equal or minus sign, Excel thinks it's a formula. So why? Oh, I think I forgot to put equal average. Okay, equal. Okay, close. I have to put equal average. Is that it? Equal average.
Oh, right, yeah. Sean, that makes sense. I understand what you're saying. That's actually, that's also that's a smart idea. I like that idea too. That totally works as well. Color format, yeah, 100%. I actually color format mine. We're gonna have a look at that if we have time in a minute. Okay, Christine, are you good now? Did you get that to work?
No, it's not working. You type equal 1 plus 1, cell shows 2.
1 plus, yeah?
No, hold on. I think I messed up with.
Okay, you know what?
Okay, I know. I
You
see
know what you did?
my mistake. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we're going to move on. So now we've got our formula. We're going to drag it down. You probably already did that, but I'm just going to go drag mine down. So I'm going to go take this. I'm going to drag this down here. So now I've got my formula copied all the way down. And no matter what marks I put in the rest of it, they're going to drag down. Okay, so now we're going to have a little talk about analyzing data. Now, we're not going to do these necessarily right now, but there are some really handy formulas that you can use to do some data analysis on the marks that you've got from your students. So max, being able to find the highest value in a data set. Now, every year we get given these sheets for student awards at the end of the year. And it's like the student who got the highest mark in the class. And like you sit there and you're looking through and you're like, which one's the highest? And you're looking up and down. And I'm like, oh, equals max. And it spits out the highest mark in the class. Easy. And then you can go find what that mark is. The median is often useful calculation when we're looking at like sets of data. And the quartile will find as quartiles. Is there a simple way to not have to fill in a 0 yet? Yes. So what I do with the zeros, so you can I answer that question after, Sean? Is that okay?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, it's just, yes, you can, but it's a little bit of it's a bit convoluted and I don't want to lose other people. So I'll show you how to do it, not a problem, but we'll do it at the end.
Good.
Okay, so we have these really handy formulas. They're worthwhile remembering. You've got them here to refer back to. They're super useful. Then there's loads more of them too. Okay, so something that we often want to do is we want to be able to identify our students who maybe are at risk of failing. Or we want to be able to say, oh, these students are doing really well, or these students are way below the average. And what I'd like to show you is what we're going to end up with here by the time we're done. So this one we made earlier over here, you will see that all of these cells here are red. And what we're going to do is we're going to change this sheet so it looks like this one that we made earlier over here. And if I change a value in here, what you're going to notice is that as I type different numbers in here, the cells change to different colors. Now, to do this, what I've done is I've used something called conditional formatting. And what conditional formatting does is it formats the value of the cell based on its value. So to do this, we are going to take this column and we're going to click on this big giant button over here that says conditional formatting. And when we click on this, we get this little menu that appears. And there are some inbuilt cell rules. So you can actually just go ahead and choose the less than. And I'm in Quebec, so anything lower than 60%, so 0.6. Remember, we're still working with percentages. If you type 60 in there, that's not going to work, right? Because we're dealing with a scale of 0 to 1. So less than 0.6 is going to get highlighted in red. Now, I can then choose to apply this to other ranges too. So I could click on this little thing here. I can go and say I want to apply it to I can click on the little thing here. And I can highlight these. I love it when stuff doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a comma here. Let's see if I can do it now. Put a comma here. No. So we're going to highlight this one. Oh, we're going to put a comma. And now we have to manually type these. Really? F4 to F30. And then we're going to put a comma and H4 to H30. Well, this is going to be a little time consuming. I don't know why it's not working. J4 to J30, right? You get the idea what's going to happen here. I'm going to advise that when we get to the end, you copy and paste. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save you some time here. L4 to L30, and then N4.
Sean put control, click and drag, so maybe command, click and drag.
Command, click and drag. Oh, Sean, you're the man. Comma. Whoa. Why didn't it do that though? Excel was getting grumpy with me. Comma. So yeah, so command click and drag or control click and drag. Good job. Nice. Thanks. I knew that we could do it like this, but I didn't realize that it was gonna need me to do this. Okay. So you know when you got to that point and now you just want to scream because you've clicked off the thing? Okay. So we're going to go through these and we're going to click on them, and I'm not sure that I'm going to have the patience to do all of them because this is honestly this is just the story of my life with this stuff. Okay. Am I going to make it to the last one? That's the question. Okay, and I'm going to do the average column. Okay, so I've highlighted this, and what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to copy that. Okay, and I'm going to go done. And you see they've all changed red. Now, to save you guys from wanting to cry, I copied and pasted it for you, and I've put it in the chat there, so you can copy and paste it yourselves, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to say, well, okay, what happens if a student gets more than a 60? Well, maybe I want to do something else. Well, maybe I want these to be green. So I can actually go and I can add another rule here that says I want to highlight a cell with a value that's greater than 0.6. And I want to fill this one in green. And I can now just paste in what I copied before. That's why I copied and pasted. And I can tick the little thing, click done, and now those ones are going to be colored in green. If you wanted to have a range in the middle where you've got students who are between like a 55 and a 65 and you wanted to color them in orange, you could totally do that as well. So there is in the rules, there is a between option as well. Okay, so I'm gonna take a quick break there so you can have a little play with that. Again, feel free to ask questions. There's loads of stuff you can do here. There's some cool stuff you can do with color scales as well. So you can actually choose color scales. You could apply that to these instead. So I could actually delete these out of here. You'll see that now it's going to go through and it's going to color them. You can actually choose how those color graded bars appear. You can have different ones. You can do some cool stuff with those as well. I don't know what it is.
Earlier, somebody asked you a question regarding the use of the $sign. We know that it's a time saver, correct?
Yep.
It's a particular way to save time. But,
so it freezes that value. So when we copy that cell down, it doesn't duplicate. It doesn't. What Excel would normally do is it would increment the values by 1. So if you look at the value that I've got here in this cell, I've got C7. So the next one would be C8. And Excel did that automatically. So by putting the dollar in there, what we're telling Excel to do is not increment that value by 1 every time. We want it to stay the same. We want it to be static. So we have these things that are called absolute and relative cell references. So by putting the $sign in, we now get an absolute cell reference. it's always going to reference that cell. Whereas with a relative cell reference, it gets dragged down. Okay, go on. Keep going.
Your screen is looking a little small. The dollar sign, does it go before the number or after the number? Because I can't really see from what you're showing me now.
Okay, so that's what we've got like that. So I pasted it in the chat there.
Okay, great.
So another little handy thing on the formulas sheet here.
Yeah.
Is you see the show formulas button?
Yeah, but it's small. The screen is small.
Yeah, but so this show formulas button will show the formulas in all of the things. So what I can do now is I can go over here. So now you can see the formulas in those cells.
Okay.
So I can go back to formulas and I can turn the formulas off. So if you want to work with the formulas in the cells instead of working with the formulas in the formula bar, you can just show them and see what they all are. It's also a really handy way to find mistakes as well.
Okay.
So Chris, we have about 4 more minutes left.
Yep.
I don't know if you wanted to start moving through or maybe have some time, because I know we did promise Sean that we need to show that 0 thing as well.
100%. So you have all this stuff about conditional formatting in the slides. It takes you through it step by step. It shows you what all the things should look like. There's one that's already made for you. We've got some additional resources here on this last slide. There's a few links out to a few different places. It's one of those things that really you have to kind of play around with. You're probably going to make some mistakes. You're probably going to curse at it. But 100%, it's one of those things that once you kind of you tame it, it's going to save so much time in your workflow. Make sure you go ahead and you use this pre-built one if you want. This one that says one we made earlier. Go ahead, hack it together. It's fully working. You could take this, use this tomorrow in class, change the assignment names, change the marks, put all your marks in, and it's going to calculate your average down here, right? So the idea of today's session was that you leave, you understand how this works, you understand what it does, and that you're able to take it away and make it work for yourselves. Before you leave, don't forget that we've got the code for today's session, so you can redeem that in the Education Center. And there was a slide in here about evaluations, but that disappeared. No, it's here. What happened? There we go. That's so bizarre. So we'd love to get your feedback. So Damien's going to throw a link in the slide deck in the chat there. We'd just love to get any feedback that you've got about today's workshop. And if you've got any help, don't hesitate to send us an email at help@cobblestonecollective.ca, and we'll be able to help you out. So if you start working through these slides tomorrow in your classroom, and you can't make them work, or you've got a question, or there's something you can't figure out, or you get an error message, shoot us an email to that help address.